to see. Pan African Daily TV fans, greetings and good evening to you. I know we are late because we've been struggling to have Al-WAHAB right here. It's very challenging getting him live on the stream from Ghana. You already understand the challenges that we keep having here each time we have a guest from Ghana. But let's just wait and give him some time. And if we can have him, we also have some support. I've been calling on PK Kasurim, who is our correspondent also in Kenya. And if we're not going to get PK Kasurim to connect on this live tonight, we also are reaching out to Professor James Moore, who apparently should have been our guest yesterday because of one thing or the other, tech issues and difficulties. But everything should be good and fine now. Thank you very much. I just want to know where you're watching me from and if there's some inches because we settled everything and we should be good to go. We have to roll on a very, challenge-free network, Pan African Daily TV. Okay, so I want to salute all of you. We have a very interesting topic today, and Al, whom you all know, is one of our biggest political analysts, and he's always on point. He's always right in his analysis, and he'll be joining us to talk about the South Africa elections 2024 and what impacts these elections get on the other elections that will be following. We already know that I think in 3 or 4 months, Ghana is going to be going to the polls, and many African countries, and also the world. Of course, America is already warming up, and I mean, like the world and Africa, going on the polls at this 2024. So please just bear with me while we are waiting for the guests to join us live here. I'll just plead on you to share the stream. Share the stream. Text me where you're watching us from. How is the reaction of the stream? Are we loud enough? Is the light okay? Is everything perfect? And so, yeah, I'm just like doing the sound check with you as a matter of fact. Revolution Tribe, thank you. Thank you, Revolution too. Thank you. Emmanuel say he's watching from South Sudan. Thank you so very much, Emmanuel. South Sudan is also going to the polls. Wow, this is good. Oh, I think Farouk Al-Wahab is in the place. Is in the place. Farouk is in the place right now. Yeah. Thank you so much. Bename Queen. My Queen Bentley is in the house. Wow. Thank you so very much. You say everything is just, I'm glowing. Wait until Al is going to land on the stream here. We're going to do a powerful show today. PK Kasrim is also struggling. PK, you don't even need to watch to join us now. Al, the man on the game, the man, you know, the powerful Farouk Al Wahab. It's like I just don't even want to bring him on the show first. You know how it is. Thank you very much, David Wayne. I want to see you all connect right here before we stand in to give Al Wahab a standing ovation. Huh? You know what you're already going to hear here today. You know all what you're going to learn today about South Africa and the elections and the whole world and the elections in South Sudan. We hear they're also going to be electing. So who are the ones that are also going to be elected? You're invited to attend the First Africa Reading Conference in Botswana, July 17 and 18. I've been trying to reach you, my queen. Oh, Makia, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But okay, okay. I'll be there. I'll be there. I'll be there. Just send me your invitation, and I'll be there in Botswana, July 17 and 18. Let me just text my email. I mean, our email is on the scrolling board, like panafricandailytv@gmail.com. Panafricandailytv@gmail.com. So you can send us an invitation. I'll be ready to attend. I mean, Botswana is very, very challenging. It's very, very interesting. I cannot wait to be in Botswana in July. That's the reason why Pan African Daily is actually on the continent. Yes, King David Wine is here. Dang, dang, watching from Egypt. Wow. Oklahoma City is also here. my friends, my sisters, my queen, my kings. Everybody's just joining. Thank you so very much. Yes, Malkia, I am looking forward. I'm so looking forward. Okay, send in your invitation. I don't think we have anything on the calendar in July. CEO, do we have anything on the calendar in July, Martin? Our July calendar is still very open. So the CEO is like, let me check. Wow. Okay. Without wasting our time, I miss being here. I was one of your first adopters. Of course, Malkia, I do understand. Who doesn't know you? We all started this whole platform and this whole show together. Of course, I know. Okay. I know. I cannot forget. Yes. So, without waiting, let me just bring Al on live on the show so we can begin to roll. You know, it's going to be a very powerful show talking about all the elections that are going to be happening, even the past elections from Senegal. We haven't talked about it, even the situation in Burkina Faso, Mali, and that. You know, Al is just owing us a lot. I mean, this guy, oh my gosh, he's owing us a lot of conversation. But let's just start with South Africa right now, and then we're going to be chewing up as we go. So please welcome with me Al-WAHAB Farouk, the man, the king from Ghana. Hey.
How are
What
you?
a pleasure to have you here.
Thank
What a
you.
pleasure. Oh
Yes,
my
how are you?
God. You're looking younger and more handsome and more chubby. Like, it's like some monies are coming in out. Tell me, where have you been all this while?
I'm around, just only gallivanting around the world, traveling and then all that.
Gallivanting
But
around the
so
world.
far, everything's okay. Good
Wonderful.
to see
It's such a
you.
pleasure to have you here, Al.
Yes,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Same here. Same here.
Thank you, thank you. I don't know, is it possible for you to just adjust your camera a little bit? Just a little
Okay,
bit.
hold on a
Down on
second.
you. Yes. It's
Okay,
okay.
so
No.
is it okay
That's
now?
fine. That's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine, Al. Perfect. That's so fine with me. Yes.
Okay.
So, good. We were just having some small talks. Al, we've been having also a lot of challenges on the Pan African Daily TV, relocating to the continent of Africa. You know, I'm your neighbor. I'm just your back neighbor now in Ghana, Accra, and in Ghana, Accra. And so there's been a lot going on. What has been going on with you, Al? Have you been traveling? Because I know you.
Always. The traveling is a
Okay.
bit, yes, but then it's very normal. It's relative to what I do. So it involves trips. So when it comes, as and when, I just have to do it. But I'm okay. Besides that, everything is okay.
Wonderful. Al, you've been observing the continent. I mean, ever since I think your last show was last year, and a lot has been going on the continent. We know that we cannot achieve the Africa we want without having a politically stable and economically strong Africa. And one of the criterias that is going to lead us to be able to, parade this Africa we want and Africa by Africans and for the world is the political landscape. What can you just say generally about it before we get into the topic of today, South Africa?
Well, let me say hello to our cherished listeners and viewers. It's been quite a bit time. Apologies that I've not joined you since last year. However, I'm here, so we can be dealing with the African, as Doctor would say, the African that we want. Yes, it's true. There have been so many things going on the continent across board, and then we're talking about the stable political landscape. I'm looking at more. We should be looking and searching for like a stable economic landscape, not a political landscape per se. Because if uh, except South Sudan, that one would say is the youngest African nation. Apart from South Sudan, you would say that most of the African nations, the last would have been, let's say, Namibia. Besides that, all of them, they are virtually more than 60 years, 65, some are over 100 years. So on the continent per se, if you take out South Sudan, every country, I would say, they are well matured because our place and Namibia with the opening of the German border, the East Germans. The East German, I would relate it to the age of Namibia. You understand? So if we position and then try to strike a healthy balance between what we are doing with our politics, that we claim or we call it a stable political atmosphere or political landscape, vis-a-vis economic stability, where in the context, which part of the region, which of the countries in Africa that really aspire to look into more economic stability, more than preparing terms called elections. If you're talking political, we just restrict and then it's about elections, because it's the elections that gives birth to politics, and the politics that gives birth to elections. So whether or not we've had elections, yes, there are skirmishes in some countries during the elections, post-elections, prior to elections. That one is okay. But in generally, one would say that we claim to have tasted or collected or granted independence. So if we have independence and we are still talking about political stability, that is the destination? No. The destination is economic emancipation. Destination is economic stability. But then the political will or the political stability is just only the SPV. It is only a special purpose vehicle that drives what we are actually looking for. Europe, they don't have the best of politics. In Germany, they don't have the best of independence. How do you call it? Democracy. Because whereas Africa, we've embraced, call it two-term mandate, or in the case of the French countries, more than 2 terms. But generally on the English and other parts of the African continent, we've embraced the two-term mandate, either 4 years times 2 or 5 years times 2. Is that what they say it is in Europe? No. The country where, Susie, you are where you scholarized. Is that what it is in Germany? Merkel went how many times? She went 20 years. So if an African leader says 20 years, we will say that it's dictatorship. The Europeans will term it. So how do we relate ours to theirs? The difference is that for them, it's about the economy that comes first. It's about the security that comes first. It's about the health that comes first. It's about the employment that comes first. So therefore, if you box and put all these things together, Africa is only concentrating on the ballot box. Therefore, it makes the African continent concentrate what I'll call a bad political decision. A bad political decision only prepares a politician or a president to win the next elections. But then good political decision, it creates employment. It creates economic stability. It creates economic emancipation. It creates social welfare systems. It creates cleaning, and then also a lot of this, environmental, everything put together. Yet, up to today, we have the independence. In my case, Ghana. In the case of Nigeria, in the case of Togo, etc. Our independence are more than 60 years. So imagine that anybody, a child born in 60 years, you're already pensioned. So what am I taking home after 60 years of pension? What do we get? In relation to the same thing like having a country. If Ghana, for instance, if Nigeria, for instance, since 1957, we are now 2024. So if we've gone through 67 years of independence, if a child who was born post-independent or during independence in 1957, that person has already worked and retired. So you ask yourself, what is your social security? What is the guarantee? What is the collateral that you are taking home? So relate it from the human factor also to the sense of a country and its dealings, or the country and its performances. It tells you that generally out of the 54, I'll call it 56 because in Tanzania and others, they are all part of the African continent. But if you're talking about the land scale, on the land itself, 54 countries, how many of them have really seen, have really worked, have really enhanced on their democratic dispensations vis-a-vis on economy? rather than talking about politics, rather than spending time to arrest opponents, rather than putting fugitives, political fugitives in jail, etc. Is that what we want? So generally, doctor, yes, so many things are going on. It is not by accident. It is just only by years and tenure of offices. You have at a time, every 4 years, about 4, 5, 6 countries on the African continent will be going into elections. We are back to the drawing board again, that after the 4 years, there's a scramble for power. There is an agitation. But then tell me, if you call the citizenry and you call the citizens, the matter still remains what? The same. The people become extra poorer than they were before. The dollar against their local currencies becomes weaker. Unemployment escalates. Apart from the unemployment, there is a whole lot of discomfort, insecurity, demonstrations, sacking, losing jobs, etc. So when you box everything together, then you access what has the politics has given us, because it comes back to ask, is it a short-term or transfer or tenure of office that is the issue? No. In my view, the politics and the democracy that we so-called preach, which of course is what is on the mind of every African. When we talk about politics, the next thing is democracy. What does democracy mean here? Democracy is just only what? Another tool of a political landscape, just only to give election. Apart from that, say it, let's say have the freedom of speech, blah, 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 all names them. I would prefer maybe to be in the hands of called a genuine dictator who will give me economic emancipation, who will employ me, give me employment, who will let me have what I deserve as a citizen, where I can put my head to sleep, where I'll be able to have a 3 square meal a day, where I'll be able to take my children to the school, where there wouldn't be much greater a gap of categorization, of classifications of schools. You get a point. So if we have elite, it is everywhere, and then the middle class and the lower class, how many of these countries? In Europe, marginally, you said that the Europeans entered the middle class almost for such a long time, and they are still with it. But how many African countries have achieved even the middle class belt? So you realize that it's only a fraction of about point something percent being the elite. And they have consistently built up on this elitism, i.e. the politics, the political class. And then there are other co-hosts who are also what? The politicians that comes into the middle class, upper middle class. But the middle class are normally the people who have tried to work. Businessmen and women, most of them are even virtually illiterate. In the case of most part of African continent, they went through hustling, they went through traveling, they went through other means and got some money, and they became part of the middle class. But besides that, so you can box only about 20% of the total population of most of the African individual countries that are a bit okay, or that are okay. But the rest, if you have 80% of your population that they are poor, what are you talking about economic political stability? If you have 85% of your nationals all poor, how do you talk about political stability? We are not talking about political stability here. We are seeking and asking for economic stability instead of political stability. Let's look at a country, Singapore. Singapore was poorer, Ghana was richer than Singapore in the 50s. Ghana was richer than Malaysia. We trained and we brought our extension farm officers to go to Malaysia and train them how to do palm farms, plantations, palm kernels, palm nuts, palm oil. Ghana trained them free of charge. Nigeria, backed with money under Shehu Shagari's government in 1981, assisted Malaysia. Turnaround time, Malaysia is among the top, one of the first 10 better or good nations, richer nations in the Asian Peninsula, the Southeastern Asian countries. You can't take out Malaysia in terms of development. When they built the highest tower in Asia, Dubai was not. The Khalifa building was not in Dubai. They had a 102 floors of tall building. This is a country that we taught them. But tell me, if our agri officers went to Malaysia to train them with palm plantations, ask me how many decent palm farms are in Ghana here? Virtually nothing. Who knows Ghana exporting palms or palm oil? Virtually nothing. Malaysia has stepped forward, become, if not the first, the second most country, a country that exports or leader of what? Palm oil. So look at it, has become one of the, apart from the fishing, one of their major source of income. From where? Technology, either you call it a native technology, you call it a domestic technology, you call it whatever that it is. They got it from us and they've advanced and enhanced on it. How did they build that? They had leader who was focused. They had leader who was visionary. And all their visionary leaders, in the case of Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore, they stayed for how many years? Over 27 years. Over 24 years in case of Ahmed. All of them, it tells you that it is not a matter of only a democracy or a matter of staying longer in power. That is not the case. It is the usage of the power and the vision that comes with the power. I don't care to go to bed if my president sits there and is over 25, 30, 40, 50 years. But then it's the genuineness, his ability to have a vision, his ability to strive and make sure that the country is actually harnessing her opportunities, giving what it takes, befitting the nation with what is actually deserved, making sure that wealth is created for the country. In the case of Africa, we don't create any wealth. Very few countries that you can say that, okay, they have done well. But marginally or generally, they don't create wealth. If the whole continent always box themselves, 54 member nations, presidents, they all go to Sochi in Russia. They all go to Beijing in China. They all go to Washington. Tomorrow you see them in Paris. Tomorrow you see them in UK. How does 54 countries, which is bigger in terms of population, which is bigger in terms of size, which is bigger in terms of mineral resources, all of you put together and go to one single country of United Kingdom with 60 million population, or Russia with 144 million population, or in China with 1.2 billion population, just only to do what? To go and seek for assistance in the name of facility. What facility? Loan. How does it work? All things being equal, if you're talking about scholars, education, we have scholarized more than the Asians over the time. If you talk about from the time of independence, I've already said, because Malaysia, Singapore, and then you're talking about Southeastern Asia, Indonesia, you're talking about Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and then Brunei and all those countries, they never knew or they didn't have independence. We got independent. I had most of those countries. What about Vietnam? Today, Vietnam is an economic power broker. Today, Vietnam is one of the biggest exporter of commodities, goods and services, etc. So if Vietnam, that was seen as a communist poorest country in the last 20 years, turns around and they are feeding Africa with their rice, where do you tell me about politics? Where do we preach about political stability? How many governments in the Asia have political stability in terms of democracy and elections? Their leaders are there. North Korea is still North Korea, he's there. China hasn't got any more democratic parties. They don't have multi-parties. Everybody subscribe to what? The Chinese Communist Party. There's peace. What they do, what do you have to do? Bring your program as a leader. How it will help and assist and support the countries and then citizens. In the 90s, you and I, some of us that have been in Europe, within that time, around that time, every Chinese that you saw in Germany, in Berlin, you saw in Austria, Switzerland, everywhere in Europe, they were all refugees. Every Turkish national you saw in Europe, especially in the case of Germany, in Berlin, all over, everybody was a refugee. Anybody that you saw from Hungary was a refugee in Middle Europe. Anybody you saw from Romania, quote unquote, we Africans were saying that we're far better than Romanians. Okay, in 1990, 1991, 1992, somebody says in East Germany, in Jena, Chemnitz, Dresden, they have not used common toilet flusher. They didn't know how to use water closet, neither did they know how to use shower. So you and I, an African, when did we start using those things? Today, go back and see East Germany, that we call the East Berlin, and other places, actually Leipzig, etc. Go and look at what the development is. Vis-a-vis, come back and compare to Africa that has seen economic, political stability, etc. So what I'm trying to tell the listeners, and we the Africans, that it is not an issue of politics. It is an issue of the vision that we lack. An issue of what? A visionary leaders that we lack. You cannot brand and hang on the neck of every African country as a corrupt nation. But indeed, naturally, that is very much so. How do we talk about political emancipation, freedom, democratic dispensation, democratic credentials are being enhanced, yet we are still holding our plate and pans, going to European countries that are having only less than 1 million population. In the case of Luxembourg, it is one of the countries with the highest GDP in the world. What is the size of Luxembourg? What is their population? What do they do? What mineral resources do they have in Luxembourg? Some of these countries are just a mere service nation. Have you seen product of Luxembourg before? Nothing. Have you seen a car made in Luxembourg? Nothing. Have you seen a fridge made in Luxembourg? No. Have you seen an electric fan made in Luxembourg? No. Have you seen an electric stove? I'm just giving you the basic common technology. They are not in there. So ask me, why do they and how are they able to become one of the world's strongest GDP nation, highly with money and cash, with freedom and etc. How do that? It is a vision. It is a matter of what? They are living on only services. So if somebody can build his or her country with just only living on services related also taxes, etc., then put everything together and relate it to a country that, i.e., has everything in commercial volumes called mineral resources. So let's say that if people in Luxembourg, people in San Marino, people in Andorra, people in other smaller nations in Europe, Malta, Gibraltar, Cyprus, and others, if these countries were to have the resources that we have, where do you think they would have been by now? Compared to us, that we have the population. Population is also money. A bigger nation with bigger people, a bigger citizens, it is also money. So we in the African continent, almost every African country, we have a youthful population more than the aged. When you pick in the case of Cameroon, 18 years to 36 years, they are about 50%. In the case of Nigeria, when you pick 18 years to 36 to 40 years, they are more than 60% of the population. When you pick Ghana, 18 years to 36 years, they are more than 56% of the population. It continues on and on, virtually. So this is a continent of young, youthful ages. Youthful continent. So therefore, ask you and I that if we have the stronger youthful continent, and if in terms of even graduates, take it or leave it, whether we have good school or good education, or we have good education or good school, put everything together, you cannot say that we don't have educated fellows or educated society. Yes, we may not have the technology or the technical education we don't have. We enhance on practical, we don't enhance on practical education. Yes, we've been dealing with theoretical education, which has not helped us. Nevertheless, we have a sizable number of graduates on the African continent. Tell me one, where has any government supported and assisted one single African who had come out with inventions, innovations, technology, Technology is normal standard of emulation. Anybody. And every technology exists today is existed in the times of 19th century. It existed in the 5th century. So it's just only upgrading. The Weberites, the brothers, the airplane that they brought, they created, they invented. It is not what we sit in with the Dreamliner. So the technology has been enhanced. So let's ask, what is the best form of African technology that the world can experience? Corruption. That is the best form of technology that we don't. If it is a race of 100 meters, we'll be leaders. The best form of technology that Africans use for is siphoning money. The best form of technology African knows is individualizing the state and then confiscating personal, even state access to themselves. That is the best technology that we have. Is that the legacy that the Europeans left there? No. How many African president leaders are prepared to leave a legacy? Virtually none. Why is it like that? Because they want to be presidents forever. It is not a matter of being president forever. It is a matter of how you make your people comfortable. Do they make the people comfortable? No. Why are they scrambling? And every tenure, end of their tenure, either 4 years or 5 years, there is a struggle for power. There is a struggle for retention. How many African presidents have raised their hands in the air, claiming and saying that, no, I didn't do well. The mandate which I came or I told the people, I couldn't even adhere to my own mandate. I couldn't fulfill my own mandate. My hands are up. I'm going out. No. They rather now talk about it, start talking tough, preaching, praising about their own what? Resource. So how does in any school of normal school thoughts that you go to school, you set your own exams questions and mark yourselves? And that is what virtually every African political leader stands on the podium, on campaign podium. What do they say? They start to itemize the things they've done. I built this and that, Boya Kumba Road. I built Kosamba Road. I built this, I built that. Ghana Kumasi Accra Road. I did Abidjan Labo Yamoussoukro. It is not your credit. It is not your credit. It is your service. It is a duty. You wanted to be a president and we voted for you to be a president. So you do not claim ownership of anything that you've done to the state. That is why we talk about bring policies that will open up the country for all to benefit. But not to tell me that I've never had any US government or United States party, the Democrats and the Republicans, they've been there in the medieval period. None of this party has claimed that George Washington Bridge was the initiative of the Democratic Party. None of them had claimed in Germany that either CDU or SPD have claimed that we built Frankfurt, etc. road. You dare not. How many of them have claimed that the London Bridge, the tower, was built by either conservatives or the Labour Party? You don't. But virtually, ignorantly, foolishly, that is what we hear on the continent of Africa. Every presidential candidate, mostly that mount on the parade, that mounts on the podium, the first thing they start saying, in the case of Ghana, our MPs, member of parliament, our presidential candidates, they even go to the Senate claiming that we built this toilet for the people. We built this market. You didn't build the farms, but you built a toilet. Why should they feed themselves and go and then ease up? So these are very comic politics that we do. So for me, if anybody talks about political stability, the continent does not need political stability. The continent needs economic stability, economic emancipation. So we should seek ye, those who have the vision to open up and propel use the administration. There are three things. Either they are managing the economy, administering the economy, or governing the economy. But they rather talk about governance in terms of governance, political governance. Political governance seeks to do how many things? Bring them back to power. Appoint the nepotism, appoint the people, and then also to have the management, the administration in their own favor, therefore appointing people that they feel that these are people. They concentrate on only the political governance side. They do not ever concentrate on anything that will be a policy that you and I will benefit. Either than that, which continent? Even the Asians, how many of them crosses from the Asia Peninsula over water, over boat, through such kind of dangerous move as the Africans are doing, crossing the Mediterranean to come to Europe? Somebody will leave Burkina Faso, somebody will leave Accra and reach Russia without sitting in an aircraft. You are more than a Mongo Park. You travel from Accra to Germany and you never sat in an aircraft. Are you a tourist or you're a worker? What exactly are you? If you ask them, they're out there, you are in Germany, they come out there and seek refugee. Yes. But compare them and to countries that are really fighting, in countries like Syria, countries like Lebanon and other places of the world where you see that, yes, indeed, they are fighting. But with us, virtually, it is true, more or less, it is all economic related issues. When you ask them, they are seeking for greener pastures. So we have greens and forests. We didn't seek for greener pastures in the African continent. We didn't get anywhere with shade. We'd rather go to countries where they have even problems and in terms of weather. But we are out there. The greener pastures is just only to talk about, to get money. That is the greener pastures that we do. How do we leave a continent with rich mineral resources? Our farms are empty. Farms in Cameroon, they are empty. Farms in Ghana, they are empty. Somebody calls himself a farmer with only 1 acre plot. How many produce? More than 30. They have cassava, they have plantain, they have cocoa, they have cocoyam, they have cotton, they have... So the land itself is congested. The land itself is suffering from different nutrients. But back in Europe, you cannot do that. Back in America, you can't do that. Back in Japan, you can't do. Back in Asia, you can't do that. Why? Because there is a certain agric form, agric formula. There's a certain agric minister who has a vision. There's a certain agric developmental plan of the country that is there. That if you're a farmer and you know how to plant, this section or this area is only for farm plantations. You don't add cocoa to plant palms, because there are two different energies that would destroy the land, making it difficult for you not to get the yield, or get a yield, but not even the rightful yield or what you need. So, Susie, we have too much of misconnections, too much of misconcentration on irrelevant materials, but generally, all what we are seeing on the African continent, listen to the messages during the elections. You will tail up, you will shape up, and you get to know where we've conscientized our strategies or our direction, whether we'll be able to redeem this continent. I'm referring your own slogan, the Africa that we want. It is far too long and too old. Somebody and people will say that we'll get there. Yes, we'll get there. But I'm saying that we are older than these countries that have already gotten there. We are older than the Malaysias. We are older than Malaysia. Look, let me tell you, the world's biggest producer of cocoa, and not just cocoa, quality cocoa, had always been Ghana. Until the last 10 years that Cote d'Ivoire is leading Ghana. However, quality cocoa bean comes from Ghana. Now, about 25% of Ghana's revenue, or almost about 30% of the cocoa revenue, it goes to where? Jute sacks. What is the jute sacks? The sack that we pack the cocoa in. What do we use to produce jute sacks? It comes from normal weeds and grasses. So Ghana has bushes, we have grasses, we have bamboo, that we are not even doing anything with the bamboo. We rather go to Sri Lanka, Bangladesh. Up to today, over 50 years post-independent till today, Ghana, 67 years of independence, we are buying our jute sacks from Bangladesh. So therefore, if you would take 25% of your revenue to a country that was bedeviled with poverty, a country that was rocked with rebels, a country that they didn't have even per capita income was not even up to 12.5 US dollars. You are giving them your income. Are we saying that we do not know of the technology of the machine? Thank God, China produces every machine in this world. So can't we as a country use one cycle of 1 year revenue to get all the machinery and set up and use our own resources, the own bush, the own bamboo, the own grasses to prepare and manufacture and produce and retain the 20% and 25% of the revenue of cocoa in the land or the country of Ghana? I'm using my own country as a reference, but there are several others. How does it work, Susie? So therefore, Bangladesh knows for sure the national income of Bangladesh, they've already advanced calculated the income coming from Ghana cocoa. Meanwhile, Bangladesh hasn't got one tree of cocoa, but they have a juice sack. Are we crazy that we cannot prepare, produce, and our own juice sacks? So every season, 25% of our revenue is automatically going to Bangladesh. Reason being that a certain family, a certain business people, a certain family from time of independence till today, they have what is called the contract to do this. And then they must see to it that that contract is not abrogated. And it has been a national tolerance, government after government, regardless of whichever party, because of certain interests that the people also have. So therefore, if we are talking about political stability, yes, we've gone into the poll. We've elected a leader. No fight, no demonstration, no atrocities, no how do we call it, disseminations, no how do we call it, tribal war, unrest, etc. At the end of the day, the people walk back to their homes and they go and sleep without food on their mouth. We've had a political, sustainable, and then also a stability politically. Is that what we need? No. Do you see our cities? Do you see how dirty most of the African cities? Have you seen our markets across the world, across the continent? Go to the African market. If you want a better food at a cheaper price, you buy it on the floor with flies. It is all over. It is not different from Cameroon market. It is not different from Ghana market, Marché Central, Makola, everywhere. It is the same. Aba market is the same. Oshodi market in Nigeria, it is the same. Togo, it is the same. So what do we really want? Are we confused to the extent that our only concentration is politics? Our concentration is not how to make our country better. If even the worst case scenario, that even well be the politics had been their concentration, what about the cleanliness, the beauty of the country? How does an African leave our edifices, our natural resources and things that we have in our countries? We leave Africa here and leave Zanzibar. We leave Africa and leave a country, a place like your end. They leave beautiful places in Cameroon, in Nigeria, all over, and go to Dubai and spend money that we are going to watch what? The Mirror building. We go to Dubai and watch the fake flower house. We go to Dubai. What do we go and see? What do we go and watch? Every African aspire on that, the women especially, they can't wait to go to Dubai. How much do we go to spend in Dubai? Emirates, they send all their aircraft in the evening. Every African country that has Emirates as arriving in them at 5 p.m. to 6 p.m., they send as many as 34 aircraft leaving the African continent to Dubai. What do they have? They park at their own hub, bring all the African passengers. On each aircraft, they don't have less than, averagely, we'll be having about 400,000 to 500,000 minimum, more, but averagely about 400,000 US dollars cash that people are pumping into Dubai. Multiply by 34 aircraft destinations on the African continent, all going to Dubai. What tourism attraction is in Dubai, apart from watching skyscrapers building? You watch the flood in Dubai. You saw it. I was there at the airport 3 good days. They didn't have answer. Where in Africa would you have even experienced that? Nevertheless, right after the flood, every African, they were back to Dubai to buy. Isn't Dubai expensive? What do they produce? There is no product in Dubai. Dubai is a service nation, just like London, just like Singapore. It is a service nation. So therefore, we do not even appreciate our own tourism. Africans don't appreciate our own tourist sites and destinations. Tell me how many Ghanaians know Cameroon and how many Cameroonians know Ghana. No, but then let's find how many Cameroonians know Dubai. How many of them go to Singapore? How many of them go to Europe to go and spend holidays and spend their money? What do you see in London? Nothing in London. You're talking about London Bridge? What else? Oxford Street. What do you go and watch out there? Nothing. We don't appreciate that. We have the Caribbean there. We have the South Pacific. We have the Kiribati. We have the Tahiti. We have the Vanuatu. We have no islands. We have narrow islands, Fiji and all those continents. Africa will never go there. Africa will never go to Barbados. Is there any beautiful place than Barbados? Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, Suriname, Antilles, Martinique Française, Martinique Holland, and all that. We will not go there. Where do we want to go? We want to go to Paris. What are you going to watch in Paris? Palace de l'Élysée. What else do you have in Paris? Gare du Nord. What else do you have in Paris? Gare de Lyon. What do you watch in Paris? Buildings and etc. You go and drink coffee. A small shot of coffee in Paris, 50 euros. You sit down comfortably. You've been in Paris, you drank coffee. Africa, palm wine, how much is it? It's not up to $1. We don't want it. White man comes to Africa and they like palm wine more than their coffee. So you see, we are just totally, Dr. Tata, we are completely a confused continent. And redemption and redeeming this continent from all this, I'll call it mental atrocities. It's only when we are prepared to bring in and invoke on the system in the countries who are visionary leaders. The visionary leaders in China, Chairman Mao, he rather even at his time closed down every university. Today, Chinese professors who are highly rated professors, they cannot even write an essay in China called Myself. Whereas an African student can write Myself essays and write up to when their great-grandmother was born. That is not the focus of the Chinese. Their focus is what? On the technology, what they will produce, what they need from us, and what will make the world buy it. Whoever thought that China would have what it called Canton Fair, and almost every European, American, British, the world superpower nations that called the Chinese a communist nation, all of them were in China Canton Fair. And what are they coming to buy? They are coming to get what they can go and sell in Europe. Were they not the same Europeans who were saying that the Chinese were communists? Were they not the same Europeans who told the Chinese to open up? Were they not the same Europeans who told the Chinese to allow them to come out, so that they will be refugees, so that there will be a laughing stock? When the communist Chinese said no, the Tiananmen Square, when the students were propelled and pushed by Europe for them to demonstrate and start what the African went through. Yes, of course, we're talking about colonization and Afroism. Our Afroism will damn it. We bleed out. So the Pan-Africanism, they see you, me, and some other Africans. When you preach Pan-Africanism, you are a traitor. You are anti-West. Is that the Western culture that we want? Or we want to live as an Africans? Do we also want to be a competitor? Or we want to be only seen as a spectator? Or we want to be seen as the Africans that we also have a mindset? If you're talking about the beauty, beautiful women are not the European women, but the African women. However, every African gentleman who enters Europe, the first thing you want to taste is a white woman. These are complexes. I'm not saying that it is not. Yeah, we are all human beings. I believe in a globalization. But then in the context of how we inferiorize our mindset, it is the same thing we take into politics. Because at the end of the day, look at how we structure our nation. Look at how the governance we share, call it the administration, the administrative powers among the political parties and the political divide. A party A today wins power, it becomes somebody's what? Somebody's hallelujah, just somebody's in heaven, because they bring in terms of diplomacy. That is my best field at the same time. Look at how many African governments have appointed non-career diplomats as against career diplomats. So you bring Nigeria in perspective, non-career diplomats, there are as many as more than 70%. Who knows nothing to diplomacy? So they cannot be able to engineer and support their nationals in the other diasporan countries. They cannot support and create jobs and bring investors to come into the country to invest. Rather, they take people who are just only from political divide, party activists, and make them overnight diplomat and call them His Excellency and Ambassador. All what they know is to celebrate the country's independence and the Republic holidays. Nothing more. So we are not. When Japan was the poorest country in Asia, Japan till today, if your father was not an agric, your father is not a farmer, he's not allowed to have you can't be a diplomat if your father has not been on a farm. It was the invention of the Japanese to make sure that the people who have stayed in the farms, they have a certain mindset, the determination, the zeal, and the power to fight. So when they go out there, they bring something to the country. Is that what we do? No. Today, there's a president in my country, a president in your country. The next thing, the nephew, who was just only a palm wine tapper, who was just only a shoemaker, they make him a diplomat overnight. Send him out there, he doesn't even understand. He doesn't even understand. So we have a whole lot. That, doctor, the African issue, please, let us not limit on it only talking about democracy. Democracy is full of nonsense if you do not know how to use it. Political stability is full of nonsense if you do not know how to use it. I would prefer to be in the hands of a genuine dictator who will tell me to sleep at 8 a.m., but the next day I'm able to feed my children. The next day my children will not only go to school, only to know how to read and write and talk good English and best French. Cameroonians, Beninois, they speak better French than the Parisians. Am I lying? They speak better French than Parisians. Who cares? They don't care about your French that you speak. They talk about what their technology, what they can do. Why do we concentrate and we spend our energies and time and they learn even other people's language better than they do? Grammatically, some verse wording, we can speak better grammar in German than even the Germans. But is that what they want? They don't care. It is what they can do with their language. We have really collapsed all our languages. We couldn't put our language together. We have a certain organization called the African Union. They come and put a funny office in Accra, call it the AFTAC, African Free Trade Continental Area. And then, hey, Jubilee, you, doctor, all of you were happy. How can such an organization function? How do you sell your product? Who are to be behind the product? It's human beings that should move the product. Human beings that should be behind the services. How many African countries have visa free to each other? Answer me. You live in Cameroon. You need visa to enter Gabon. You need visa to go to Central African Republic, Bongi. You need visa to Brazzaville. Brazzaville needs visa to Gabon. Gabon needs visa to Central Africa. You need visa to Guinea Equatorial. So if you're talking about AFTAC, where do you pass with the goods to come to Accra or Nigeria to go and sell? Ghana needs visa to Namibia. Namibia needs visa to Ghana. Egypt needs visa to Ghana. Ghana needs visa to Ghana. Are you going to sit in Ghana and then send your goods over what? It doesn't work. A continent of 54 nations. And if you look at our traditions, culture, food, whatever that we do, it is the same. Cross-border, they speak one language. Cross-border is one tribe. When you bring the African perspective, Cameroon, bring all the traditional dance. If you have 25 traditional dances, you will find 18 of them are also the same thing in the same way twisted in Ghana. If you go to Togo, every dance in Togo is in Accra. Every dance in Cote d'Ivoire, you find it in Benin. Every dance in Benin, you find it in... So what kind of people? We are one people. So if by chance, colonization brought us the demarcation, that is okay. Does that make us fool? Does that make us fool that we cannot think that we're one people? Does that make us fool that European Union was not formed with 43 European countries at a go? No. European Union was formed with 6 countries. The 3 Benelux, Luxembourg, Holland, Belgium, Germany, France, and Italy.
It was a coal mining association. From 1990, how many years had even ECOWAS? How many years have the Central African Republic, the East African Continent Community, EAC, how many years have they been in existence before the European Union was born? How many years had the SADC been in session before the European Union? Barroso, the Portuguese guy, when he came in 1990, 1994, where they've taken Barroso, where they've taken Europe up to today, opening up every border, bringing down and breaking down all frontiers and barrier, free movement. So you can leave Spain up to Norway. You can leave Spain up to this, no migration. But us, in Ghana, with Togo border, Accra to Togo is only 1.5 hours. Accra to Abidjan, all the borders, everywhere that you reach, in the case of the French countries, you all have to come down and scrutinize. Till today, in the modern age of 67 years of most of the African independence, they still search people's pocket. So the destiny of the country is in somebody's pocket. The destiny of the country is in somebody's bag. Look at in Cameroon airport, Douala. Look at Accra airport. When KLM arrives, our own customs, your own douane, what do? Yes, when they see the beautiful woman with bags, the customs, if even they are sleeping, douane, they wake up. They open the bag. You have 6 shoes. 3 are new. You have to pay for duty. Primitive mentality. So the country's destiny, you've left the gold, you've left the diamond, you've left the tomatoes, you've left the cassava, everything that has exportable commodity which have value. We don't care about those things. We are only interested in someone. How can the country invest their life in somebody's bag? 3 pieces of bag. Dr. Tata, when you get to Douala Airport, how many times do they scrutinize your bag? You scrutinize to the extent they open even your panties and count the panties for you. If it is 10, you have to take 4 and then make duty of 6. Is that not stupidity? Is that the panties that will make the country work and the country has everything in the bush? Timber is there. Food is there. Even the balanced rainforest is money. Is that what we do? When we're talking about the forest, we have it more than any other continent of the world. What do we do with it? And yet, we have a problem. So please, these topical issues, we haven't spoken on this network for plenty of time. But when I'm at home, old man, thinking about myself, Dr. Tata, don't bring African political issues. It will be a big issue. You understand me? Because look at it from this. Who travels more to Europe? Not the Europeans. The biggest intake, the biggest customers, the biggest clients that troop into Europe are Africans. So therefore, now come back to the embassies across Europe, across Africa. In United Kingdom, the UKs that colonized Ghana, their visa fee in Ghana here is more than £500. And it's all over Africa. The Turkish now, their visa fees, the Chinese, their visa fees, and the struggle they make you go through. Were they not the same Chinese who some few years ago, they were begging even for us to come over? Under 3 years, look at how now to struggle to get a Chinese visa. That is clever thinking. So they've seen that the Europeans are making money on visa issuance. So they tighten them and Africans will pay. You get it? But how many of them will come to our end? You go to our embassies abroad. They are not even well fashioned for somebody even to respect them. They look at some of us, embassies in Accra, asking even the politicians, asking the minister, asking the president to come to the embassy to come and do fingerprint. Are we so crazy? How many a time can you go to Europe as an African embassy, as a Cameroonian ambassador to Berlin, Ghana ambassador to Berlin, and as a German minister of finance to come there and fingerprint for a Ghana visa? It doesn't work out like that. Their diplomatic passport comes here free. Our diplomatic passport, we have to attract and apply for visas. So we have really, we don't respect ourselves. We don't value ourselves. We don't have the vision, and we are not prepared to map up any strategy called the vision. And we are confused, fellow. We are confused, only talking about politics, democracy, politics, democracy. What is that? Those ones who even brought democracy, they don't practice democracy. Those who brought democracy. I've given an example. A powerful democratic nation that you and I know, Germany, they had a woman prime minister who went 20 years. Who went 20 years unchanged. So why is the democracy in that context? Referring and then comparing to an African country that have changed power every 8 years or that have changed power every 10 years. They sit down still and tell you how to do your democracy. They don't. How many prime ministers do you know their names in Holland? Tell me, you live in Europe all these years. Tell me one prime minister that you know their names in Europe. Tell me the name of Belgium prime minister. Tell me the name of Luxembourg prime minister. Tell me the name of Swiss prime minister. You don't know their names because they cannot talk and make noise. They are to work in the offices. They have to make sure their country works. But African presidents, everybody knows them. What do they know them for? Because they are corrupt. So their names are everywhere. And that is where we source our inspiration. And that is where we source the name. That they are, yes, very powerful. Look at when they are coming to the United Nations, the United Nations General Assembly, UNGA. When African president is coming to UN summit, they come with 120 delegates members. 120. 2 aircrafts. The president has his own jet, and then other people. They are coming to support the president to talk, excuse me, to say nonsense, only for 2 hours. In most cases, he will not even open his mouth for any one single speech. Yet he brings 200 people. Everybody will receive per diem. Everybody will receive per diem, $1,000 a day, multiplied by 120. That is even what they tell the country on the national account. But go and see the disbursement that they made. And all of them group and sit in an aircraft just to accompany the president, just to be part of UN General Assembly, knowing very well that only 4 members can go to the chamber. But United Kingdom comes with only 6 members. The German delegation are not more than 4. Australian delegation are not more than 6. Canadian delegation are not more than 5. American delegation are not more than 3. Japanese delegation are not more than 4. Nigeria comes with about 230 people. Ghana goes with regularly not less than 130. Togo goes with about 87. Cameroon goes with about 100. Nigeria goes with about, how do we call it? Sierra Leone goes with 100 members. And the moment they touch down to the airport, either New York or Washington, you see a lot of them in downtown Manhattan shopping. So let us put the money that they go out there and spend at the United Nations General Assembly. Do you think America will tell you that don't bring so many people? They issue visas. They know they are coming to spend money. They allow them to come. But they know very well that the leaders, even the leaders, how many of them? You get no more than 3 African leaders that speaks on the podium. Apart from that, nobody speaks. So where do you carry all these people to go and do what? So we could have used and diverted that money, that resources, and go and then make up one district hospital. Just only to renovate one district hospital, to renovate one school, to renovate one clinic in a village. We will never do that. Are we talking about politics here? Dr. Tata, is that the politics that we're talking about, political stability? So you have a political stability that you've gone through elections, but you go through to the United Nations General Assembly with 200 people without political stability in the air. It is stupidity. There's no political stability in Africa. It is complete stupidity. And these are the things they don't want us to look at their faces and tell them that, excuse me, you are stupid. Because you have everything within your reach. Everything within your reach. Nevertheless, I've seen instances many times. We now sometimes talk about China. They are taking Africa. What do you think they should do? Dr. Tata, what do you think they should do? If we don't have a use for our land, if we don't have a use for with our brain, if we don't know how to use them, they will use you because they're overpopulated. They send them out there. Anybody who knows China, Guangzhou is the biggest destination for every African. Have you seen duty-free shop in Guangzhou? No. Guangzhou airport? No. It is only arrive, land and go. No duty-free. Because they will not go and bring European goods to come and sell. They expect you to go to town, do the shopping there. Don't come to the airport. Because if they open duty-free shop, it is only European goods that they are coming. They are not there to promote European goods. Go to Beijing. How many duty-free shops you see? No. Clever thinking. Come here, spend your money. You say we are communists. Yes, we are not Democrats. But we are doing everything that we can do humanly possible. making our people. The monies that people took to this Canton Fair in China, they're the Europeans. Where are Africans? What is our participation? We go to China to buy towels, ladies' panties, braziers, and now human hair. That is what our money concentration goes. African is holding a bag, a politician's wife. The hair that she's going to wear, the wig, is more than $30,000 in a bag. We're talking about political stability with that one. We are enslaved mentally. So, Madam Tata, I would suggest that on the topic of political stability, if we are to concentrate, people are to go to work, people have to sleep. Let us end that topic before before they collapse, they break down your network again as it's happened before. We cannot treat your next topic, so bring it on.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I have in studio with me here Professor James Small, whom I brought in actually this time just to listen and analyze.
How are you?
Assalamu alaikum.
Yes.
You are fantastic. That's one of the best critiques I've ever heard.
Thank you very much.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yes.
My brother. I don't know what I can add to that. I don't know what I can add. You were so on point. You hit the nail right on the head. And
Thank you very much.
Hold back anything.
No.
Because we have everything we need on that continent. We don't need to look outwards for nothing.
Nothing.
But we have to discover. I put it like this: until we become our ancestors again, we'll be the Europeans' ancestors.
Exactly.
Until we become our ancestors, we will be the European ancestors. And their ancestors will service their interests.
For sure.
Only the wisdom of our ancestors will service our interests.
Exactly.
But your presentation was absolutely perfect, my brother. FAROUK.
Thank you, my brother.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
God bless you. Thank you.
So I just wanted to come to listen to you. I didn't come to say anything. I was just sitting here enjoying you.
Don't go away. Stay tuned. Don't go away. Join me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, my guests. Thank you, my honorables. Like I said, Professor James is here. Not just, we're not going to be doing those kind of lectures, exceptionally for really relevant issues that would need him. But he's always going to be here to analyze, to back up, to give feedback, because most of our young people are saying they just talk, they don't know, they don't have a mentorship that is like a direct one. So that's why automatically, even though he's busy and had everything, I said, no, we have to be here just to listen to you talk. So, and I know the audience just enjoys seeing Prof here. Just see him in there. The master is right there listening, to the junior and how they interact. Anyway, we're going to touch the topic that we wanted to talk about today. You've already enveloped everything. I know I angered you a lot when I talked about political stability. That's the anger that I actually brought you on fire. But actually, we wanted, from your perspective as a political analyst, a top notch. Yeah, they want, I don't know any African that we call an encyclopedia of the continent that understands these political issues, like AL-WAHAB, our brother from Ghana. And you've been on this for long. Now, just tell us a little bit, not even a little bit, educate us about the South African elections and what Africans should be learning. Remember, Prof is listening. Prof is here, the mentor.
Okay.
You gotta get your facts right.
South Africa elections, I think it's a justification of what the black man, once again, ever we took out. The late His Excellency Nelson Mandela, who spent 27 years of his life, which I might say, and I will say that if the white men or the whites in South Africa knew there was going to be a day that man was coming out from jail and redeem the nation and take him back for them to regain and take their country, I'm sorry, they would have killed him, not for him to die naturally as he had. They didn't anticipate that. They didn't expect that. So if somebody sacrificed himself for how many years? 27 years, sitting in a small corner with virtually nothing. Lost his wife, the children, left the wife and left the children behind, but with zeal and determination to redeem, survive through the hardship, and then made sure that he sacrificed himself for his people. Successive governments, politicians, they have really let Nelson Mandela down. But if in humanity, if we had a chance for us to come back and open our eyes from our grave and see what is going on, Mandela would have been disappointed greatly for seeing what ANC and where the ship of South African politics, where it is today, and the leaders and where they've taken the country to. Yes, it is indeed very sad. It is indeed very sad in a sense that when Mandela was released on that 11th February in 1990, till today, it took him how many years for them even to allow a political discourse, a democratic political discourse to take place. 3 years when Mandela, by destiny, he became the president. And by destiny, of course, the white man, or either the Hollands or the Dutch or the British or the Indians, or built all together, knew that yes, the continent is not ours. So certainly going into multi-party and elections, it was going to be a black man taking back their continent called a country. So indeed, it took place. Mandela became a first president. The man was tired. So after 5 years, he said, I'm tired. He has prepared people who were in the struggle with him. However, the real ones that he started, the Watala Sisulu, the Oliver Tambo, and etc., they all left him behind. But then the ones that were just behind him, who took up and he felt that he could handle the mantle to them and sit back and just only give me a spiritual father and guide him, like Swapo Samnojuma is doing in Namibia, even at the age of 100, almost 100 years, how he's supporting the political class or the youth or the new Namibia for them to propel and make the country work, regardless of the difficulties. Let's ask ourselves, post Nelson Mandela, no president, Thabo Mbeki, Zuma, and Cyril Ramaphosa, none of them have completed their terms with ANC, a party of the black man, not a party of a white man, the party that cried for apartheid to end, the party that reached out to the entire world for support, for them to have their own nation and govern, rule, administer, and then manage. They could not survive what you term political stability. So I'm referring to you, Madam Tata. Where the political stability that ANC, post Nelson Mandela, Thabo Mbeki could not have political stability. He managed the first 5 years until his second term when he won, because naturally ANC was still going to win. After 2 years, there was also political instability within the ANC, coup d'etat, to take Thabo Mbeki out. And there came Zuma. Zuma survived 5 years. His second term, he survived only 2 years. And then he was also coup d'etat. They also staged a coup to take him out. Who next? Ramaphosa. He's finished his first 5 years. The second term, he's also going to suffer coup d'etat. So what is the political stability in the mind? How many years was de Klerk was a prime minister, president of South Africa, and those before him? They had political stability. Our own ANC cannot manage political stability. Now let's look at the numbers and let's look at the scenarios. What brought Thabo Mbeki out? Why did Zuma take Thabo Mbeki out? They all rather hang on their neck. Discomfort, lack of popularity, corruption, and corruptible practices. These were the three things. They've lost fame with the grassroots. They are corrupt. The people are not happy with them. And by their political system, they don't need to go to the general polls. They need to reintroduce a presidential candidate and take you out. So they took him out and then brought Zuma. Zuma came. And the South Africans would say that his time, he registered the biggest corruption cases, blah, 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 blah. So after the 5 years, another group, another people, another settings of the political divide in the ANC will say that Zuma is a fighter. But let us not forget one thing. Today, Cyril Ramaphosa, when Nelson Mandela was giving up power, Ramaphosa at that time was a strong political class. He was a strong politician. When Ramaphosa could not win the politics, the presidential selection, or Mandela giving him the power, what did Ramaphosa do? He left ANC. For your information, he stopped politics and went into business, and he went to the white side. So he was the whites. That is why he went to do his business and made money. He came back in the late 2000s, the mid 2000s, when he realized that, okay, who else? Zuma has also become unpopular. He also staged other ANC group also to campaign and then bring Zuma down. And Ramaphosa came. Now let's look at it. If one would refer and ask that he who hanged, that Zuma was very corrupt. He supervised his own farms with the Falafala debacle, as we call it, the Falafala investigation. $4 million US were found on his farms. $4 million US dollars were on his farms. So he was not corrupt. Therefore, he was able to manage through because he is what? The president. Look at how many South Africa state institutions, enterprises that have gone into divestiture or in private sector. It has also been managed carefully by him, supervised by him. So the discomfort had also set in that Ramaphosa is also not popular. So what do we mean here? We have been preaching, my Dr. Tata is talking about political stability. Now Mandela out of the equation, the political stability of Mbeki didn't hold. Zuma did not hold. Then it came to Ramaphosa. Certainly, if even he had won these elections one touch, of course, some of us, we knew that it was not going to happen. So it's certainly, what is it going to happen? He was also going to manage only 2 years and go out. Now, because of lack of understanding, when the old man, I'm referring to the 82-year-old man Zuma, was put in jail, even though between you and I, he didn't spend 1 day in jail, but quote unquote, on paper, he had been in jail. But that jail, they referred that he was there. He was never a mate. He never went there. But for the fact that the man had been thrown into jail, and the fact that he believes that if I'm corrupt, all of us, we are corrupt because we are ANC. 3 of them, Thabo Mbeki, 3 of them, Zuma, Ramaphosa. How do we allow one man to go to jail 27 years, bring back for us to deem to get our nation, and the 3 people who successively came after Nelson Mandela, all of you are corrupt? Looking at the ANC, that chalked over 70% of Nelson Mandela's selection to become a president, today had gone down. First of all, was the divisions needed? The parties, the Malema party, the EFF, then also the party of today, Zuma, which I'm going to give you a lecture on that subject. Was that needed? So the ANC itself has seen faces of 2, 3, 4, or more than 5 to 6 parties formed within ANC. Over 6 parties formed within the ANC. The popular ones are the one that you saw, Malema, and that of the MK of Zuma. Now, Zuma is not prepared to be a president of South Africa. No. He just wanted to make an impact and say that I'll do you. I'll show you where power lies. Now, South Africa elections, 40% for ANC. Very sad. Very dangerous. Let us not forget, the DA, the Democratic Alliance, which is led by John Steenhuisen, they have been the second greatest party, bigger party, even after Mandela, during Mandela's time, and consistently they build up. If you look at their numbers from Mandela's death, from Thabo Mbeki, Jacob Zuma, up to today, they've graduated with their numbers. Whereas ANC have allowed divisions to come on their side, their numbers are dwindling, is going down. They cannot see it. They are not seeing it. So the next 4 years, we see the DA appreciating, because now when you box the DA and other alliances they put together, they are going to have about 144 parliamentarians. So think of it. Over the period, they will come back. If they will not introduce apartheid, they will introduce it in a different way. Political stability for the African man. Now, here's the analysis. The South Africa political system, there's elections, 40.x% for ANC, 20.x% also for the DA. And look at the funny colors. Whereas the ANC boasts of the yellow, the DA boasts of the blue, and then the green has been taken by the old man, and the red for the Malema. Beautiful colors, all loud colors in the world. These are embodied in South Africa, embodiment of South African political landscape, which is very fine. Now, Malema, that was more or less the
Okay, I think he's been kicked out. Definitely his internet, because we saw the way it was already tripping. And I think I would really love to have Professor James Small on camera and on mute. If we're not going to, okay.
I'm here.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much. Al was just kicked out, and yeah, and you followed up the conversation shortly. Okay, wait, I think he's definitely back, because this is a political situation. Where, yes. But you were already.
I'm about to the studio. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Sorry. Yes, I can hear you perfectly. So, Malema, who was third in the last elections in 2019, Malema did well, and he's tried to present some members of parliament. The question is, was that even needed? That a grassroots politician, a grassroots member of ANC, what happened? Where did we reach? How did we get to this stage that Malema has also disagreement with ANC for him to have his political party? Now, followed by the old man. But we've forgotten. And one mistake that Ramaphosa had done, which no civilized and experienced politician like that would ever do. You know very well that the KwaZulu-Natal had always been the strongest base in the times of Mandela's imprisonment of the ANC regime. And the size and the biggest part of the KwaZulu-Natal, all of them, they resonate with the Zulu people. They resonate was also Zuma. So what at all could they not manage their differences? And they didn't see the old man last year. He didn't come forward because they wouldn't have. He first initiated a move to be in parliament as a parliamentary candidate. They knocked it off. So they should have known the man's intention. Rather go to him, talk to him, and tell him that without you, without Mandela, without this, there wouldn't have been. We wouldn't where we are now. We would have still been in bondage. We have still been in slavery. We have still been in apartheid. We have still been in racial segregation. They couldn't, as black man. They couldn't discuss They couldn't manage, they couldn't arrange, they couldn't fix themselves. Okay, allow him. Here we are now. Now ANC is 40%. The main grassroots ANC people will not today, tomorrow agree that there should be a coalition with the DA, that is the white party, because if they are to do a coalition with DA alone, they are already 50% plus one. They can form government. How does now ANC with the red with the blue party can form a government of what? So now, the root cause of ANC struggle, I'm a traditionalist Pan-African, I would say that it will be a difficult pairings for the two of them to go into government. Because what does it mean? All the economic powers, we know the chief executives, bigger in the hands of the whites. So now, therefore, if they are going to go into coalition or alliance, whether Ramaphosa like it or not, he has to bring down his vice president and bring John Steenhuisen as the vice.
Prof,
That is a
what do you
beautiful
think about
analysis.
that? Because I think, yes,
I think the analysis made all the sense in the world. If ANC is to have any power going forward of significance, they've got to make that coalition.
yes.
They don't have a choice. But as our brother has articulated, that it is amazing that they have not been able to unite the fragmented parts of ANC to meet the forces of apartheid, which is trying to make its way back. It's almost like he was speaking earlier. We are in a mind freeze of some sort. Our unconsciousness has taken over our common sense, that we are focused so much on winning elections, we have not put together a policy or program for running the nation, economically, politically, culturally, and socially. And so the nation, in terms of its people, have not evolved since the death of Nelson Mandela. Matter of fact, we've devolved rather than evolve into a higher, more positive social, economic, and political position. And so it's kind of sad, but Brother FAROUK is so on point with his data, with his analysis, with his depth of understanding, that this program has to be shared quickly and in many places that it can be. Because we watched also on Sunday an election in Mexico, where the major party won the Congress, both the upper and lower house, and they brought in their candidate, the first woman president of Mexico. And that party have consolidated power so that president will be able to govern. Our situation right now in South Africa, no one is president yet. We can't govern ourselves yet. Yet in a majority African state, that should not be the case. But because of the colonial mindset and the European value system practiced by the African middle class and elite, the continent of Africa is going back into slavery, back into colonialism, at its own hands. But its own hands that's in the intellectual mindset and value system of the former European colonizers. And so we need to come up with then an African ideology, an African spiritual system, an African historical perspective, an African dream of the future that does not include the dominance of those who have enslaved and colonized us. Period. One Africa has to be more than a phraseology. One Africa must be a practice. And we can start by taking down the borders, getting rid of the visas for the 54 nation, wipe them out. That could be done overnight. If we can do that first step, in parts of the country, we have relaxed the tariffs. That's good. But you still have visas. This makes no sense. Okay? It doesn't even, because of our parochialism, meaning I don't even want to call it tribalisms, but our false notion of ethnocentricity, nations that did not exist before the Berlin Conference. We can't even build a decent freeway from one nation to the other that would move our commerce in a way that it would make sense. You know? So I just listened to Baba FAROUK, and that analysis and history he laid out is one of the best I've seen. I'm just here not knowing what to say other than congratulations, my brother. You are absolutely brilliant. And Susan, you were absolutely a genius to bring him on at this time. We don't know who's interfering with him staying on. We're sure somebody don't like his analysis at all. But he's very clear. And the young man in South Africa, he underestimated the rhetoric of radicalism. You cannot substitute the rhetoric of radicalism for grassroots, door-to-door organization. And more effort should be put into grassroots, door-to-door organization around the values of Pan-Africanism. Because most of our people do not understand Pan-Africanism. And South Africa, more than any, have been taught to fear Pan-Africanism, fear the entry into the country of other African nationals, you see. And so many of them oppose young Julius because they think that the doors of South Africa will be open to the multinationals from other African nations, and they've been taught to perceive that as a negative. And they practice that perception, you know. And they voted such that they would rather have white apartheid back rather than have unity with the African peoples of the continent. That's a sad thought, but that's what I glean from the voting pattern and behavior I saw in South Africa. So I don't know how long the show is. Can you hear me, Susan?
Yes, I can hear you. I think Al is, if you don't mind, we bring him. You've been going out and in.
Yeah, I'm actually at work, and I need to go back to work.
Susie, I'm here.
Thank you very much, Rob.
I'm here, Susie.
Thank you.
Yes.
Brother Al, congratulations. I'm going back to my work.
Prof.
But I just wanted to be here to congratulate your brilliant analysis of this whole situation.
Thank you.
With the election. And thank you, my brother.
God bless you.
Peace and blessings.
Thank you, my brother. Get in touch.
Bye-bye now.
Get in touch. Take care. Take care.
Yes.
Okay. So, so Susie, as I was saying before, I left the line. Went off. Malema, they couldn't convince him to stay in the ANC. Zuma, they couldn't convince him to stay in the ANC. So the danger point is that there will be another emerging of another Zuma, because Hiblisa and others, Zondo and Co., they are all ANC. They are there. So over the period, what is going to happen? The DA party is now also looking for coalition. The next election, the DA will be concentrating on getting the valuable, very grassroots, very popular ANC people and tell them that you are capable of becoming also like Zuma. So when they have a multiplication of even 2 more ANC members like Zuma, Malema, and 2 more,
to form a party, there is no ANC. And that is just coming. Because you can move from 70% to 76% and come down from 1994, come 2024, you are now up down to 40%. Because there's a disagreement among yourselves. Prof made a comment, which I was going to go there. How many and how far did Thabo Mbeki close the economic wider gap between them and the white race, or vis-a-vis the other races? Employment gap from the time when the white man called the apartheid system was there up to today, how much have they appreciated in terms of adding value and getting people employed? Virtually zero. So if over the period of 1994 till today, we're talking about 30 years, you've not added even 2% to 3% of employment, you have no business to be in government. Because the bigger employment that has been given even to the blacks are from the white company or the white people that we call them, or they call them that they were originators of apartheid. They have employed the blacks more than the white blacks. How many South Africans have businesses to employ their own blacks? Every South African who is working, if not for the federal government or for the government, the state institutions, the public, and then the state departments, everybody works for a white company. Either be Chinese or be Indian or white, African. So naturally, the ANC post Nelson Mandela from 1996, they have done virtually nothing. Only political struggle among themselves. That has brought them onto their knees today. So if ANC could not manage 50%, could not even manage 48%, whereas they could go to the other minority parties and bring 2 to get 50%. But here, imagine a whooping margin of nearly 11%. Malema is not having 10%. He's 9 point something. The old man is 15%, which ANC will struggle due to and as a result of arrogance. Ramaphosa cannot go. Now, if they are to form a union government, the next party, the next number, the bigger number is the DA. So now if the DA has to concede and be part of the union government, the alliance or the grand coalition, now ANC have to share the government with the white supremacy. So if they are sharing the white supremacy with them, then they would also now tell you the farms that you are preaching about, sharing their farms, sharing this and that, you cannot make mention because they are part of the union government, sharing power with you. Now they are to form government in 2 weeks. So it means that unless Ramaphosa raises up his hands once again and say that, I'm sorry, I couldn't form the union government. So they have to go into the second runoff. And if they are to go into second runoff, it would deepen into against the ANC, because this time around, Jacob Zuma, who only campaigned less than 5 months in the KwaZulu-Natal, one of his strongest base is Johannesburg. He didn't campaign much in Johannesburg. If there would be a second election, then the Johannesburg caucuses in support of Jacob Zuma would all now come. Now Zuma will appreciate more than 20%. So it will worsen ANC, the chances. So South Africa is in trouble. ANC is in trouble. And if they are to form grand coalition government of the first 4, the ANC, the DA, the EFF, and then the MK, if they are to also come on board, certainly Zuma does not want any post. Zuma is going to introduce his daughter, Duduzile. He is going to introduce the daughter or introduce any of his party activists that, okay, before I add my numbers or I come on board, I want the vice presidency. Ramaphosa will not give in to that. Then if he tries also to have an alliance with the DA, which is the white party, it will also create another wider gap and openings and division, and there will be immediately a vote of no confidence for Jacob Zuma. What does it mean? Sorry, for Ramaphosa. What does it mean? He's already not been crowned a president. So if there's another vote of confidence, so the ANC will be in disarray. They'll be shattered completely, because the strong grassroots ANC would also not agree that Ramaphosa do what is called an alliance government with the DA. They will not agree. And if Malema would also not give in to Ramaphosa, because the two of them are enemies. Ramaphosa is also not fine with Zuma, because he cannot go to Zuma. He's arrogant. So the analysis, what Zuma faces, is either to go with the 4, which will be a difficult task, because if he's going to go with the 4, Zuma can raise a vote that gives the presidency to Malema and step back. Zuma can also say, give the presidency to Dudizile, my daughter, and step back if you want us to be the alliance. If they want to go and have an alliance with the DA only to get the 50+1, the ANC will break into 3 or 4. So there will be a serious, there's a serious issue. All boils down on the fact that all the 3 presidents, they couldn't bring South Africans, black South Africans to the level, whereas all of them would have been encouraged, having jobs, having money. Let me not lie to you, Susie. Yeah. South Africa, at a point, during the time of the white man, during the time of Mandela, they had budget surplus. South Africa money, even now, the money that the country has, it is still a richer nation. But tell me, who has the money? The money are still with the whites. Who has the money? The middle class. That forms part of the Indians. How many of the blacks are middle class? Very few. Those who had the chance to serve in the government and stole money. But naturally, traditionally, a young South African like you and I, working, making money, very few. It's just of late, that South African ladies and young men, you see them in Dubai to buy and sell. They are not used to that. They were not. The apartheid destroyed them. Even if you care to know, the only country in Africa, a black African nation, black continent nation, that hasn't got a traditional food is South Africa. They don't have any of the South African traditions. They don't have any traditional food. How many traditional food has Sierra Leone, Cameroon has? How many Nigeria, Ghana? Nigeria has more than 200 traditional local food. South Africa hasn't got one. Everything is sugar-based. Bread, ketchup, bread, that. They don't have. So you see, they are laid back in terms of the African cultural settings and African tradition. Yes, it was not their fault. But having had in your hands 30 years to have your own affair, a country which I would say, either good or bad, the white men, they worked. South Africa has roads. South Africa has infrastructure. South Africa has what Europe has. They did it for you. So stepping into power with the majority of your nationals, you could not bring them to alleviate the suffering. You could not bring them a par also with the level of economies. You could not create entrepreneurs. You could not create businessmen and women. You could not create technocrats. They don't have. So they all have to resort back into the white supremacy, which they claim that they were apartheid or pro-apartheid system. Now the danger point is that, as I've enumerated, is that whether we like it or not, Zuma cannot, Ramaphosa cannot form a government. He faces the daunting task, because if he wants to convince Malema to come and give him the vice presidency, Malema's number will still make it up to the 50+1. If he has to form alliance with the red party, the blue party, the South Africans, the ANC will not agree. Because the hardcore grassroots ANC, they never would agree for ANC to be in alliance with the blue party. That is the DA. So where are they now? And they are to form government in 2 weeks. And soon as Ramaphosa makes an attempt to have all the 3 parties to support, because the other parties, which forms part of the 11, the other 7, their percentage put together is not up to 7%. So there is nothing that you can do with them. But then the DA is trying to do recovery of all those parties to their side to form also a strong opposition in parliament. So if the Democratic Alliance are able or is able to collect all the other minority parties that are also part and parcel, except the few from the Indian folk, but those ones from the ANC, all defected, if they break them together, they will make a numbers almost about 150 MPs. The drop of Malema from the last 2019 elections of his members of parliament is because of the appreciation by Jacob Zuma. Because during the 2019, there was no party for Zuma. So those who were pro-Malema, they all voted. But in the case that we have Jacob Zuma, they didn't vote for Malema. That is why his number declined. So his number has declined. Zuma had appreciated after 5 months of campaign to almost 15%. So if they have 15% and you are not able to form government and you raise your hands that I couldn't form government, there will be a second runoff. The moment that there's a second runoff, we are expecting a sharp increase of Jacob Zuma's party, the MK. So the moment the MK appreciated, it will downgrade the ANC. If they don't take care, they will be a par, 30% or 25% each. So South Africa ANC is in disgrace, gone. It will be gone. And because of the performance of the DA, now if there should be a second election, all the whites who didn't vote because they thought that the ANC would automatically win, all of them are now going to vote. And you're talking about the likes of the whole Eastern Cape. The whole Eastern Cape, going down to Port Alfred, Port Elizabeth, the whole Eastern Cape, they all now come fully to vote. Those who are even out of the country will all now fly in to vote for the DA. So if the DA becomes strong and they have 25, ANC have 25, and then the MK has 25, and others, Malema, so where? Then, of course, it will come to a point that the DA will not say that before I join the belt, let me have the presidency. ANC is gone. So this brings to the question that politics is a dicey game. But the African way of politics is selfishness. And that is costing Ramaphosa up to this. But if we learn how to dialogue among ourselves, we learn how to understand ourselves, we will still not be under colonization. Because now, they have indicated that the appetite, except the fact that there was a segregation, now people, there are even some of the ANC who would have wished that appetite is back, either in support of Zuma or against Ramaphosa or in support of what? Malema. Because they couldn't manage their own affairs. They couldn't manage their own affairs. If within 30 years, you've come down below the 50% ANC in the next 10 years, will there be any ANC? No. So South Africa will start to experience what is called coalition government, coalition government, coalition government. Whereas Mandela gave you the country's election silver platter, one would have expected that now the ANC will be 90% in any elections that they go in. 90% would have been the estimated after 30 years. If you have worked better, if you have worked on the ground, if you have given your own nationals, your own citizens, your own black people what they wanted, bring them up, give them better education, let them compete and have also all the jobs, the positions that have been in the hands of the whites, they would have also competed. But now if you go to banks, everything is still controlled by them, by the whites. All the state corporations is controlled by them. The chief executive, the deputy, It's all controlled by them. The finance will be it's all controlled by them. So if they now come in to be parts, and now they are so needed, now you need them because they have the numbers. The ANC hasn't got the numbers. They have half of yours. And then if you force, they force you, which I'm thinking in the next 2 weeks will be the scenario. That'll be very dicey. We'll be here talking about ANC being shattered, butchered, divided. So there wouldn't be any ANC. So where is the substance? Do you know why? All this brings to bear how systematically ANC have treated the other African countries. When they were busy maltreating the Zimbabweans, they were busy maltreating Nigerians, busy maltreating Cameroonians, busy maltreating Mozambicans, busy maltreating Zambians, busy maltreating Malawians, busy maltreating all other African countries that went there to support and feel that it's part of our continent to work. All the three presidents, Ramaphosa, Zuma, Thabo Mbeki, all of them, they had a history of what is called their struggle against their own fellow Africans, the xenophobic attacks. They couldn't stop it. They all their time, they couldn't. And yet, the African countries were the base and the support that supported and helped South Africa for them to regain independence, call it, and then redeem themselves from the apartheid shackles. At the end of the day, they turn around. Every year round, every 2 years, there was a cycle of killing other Africans. So here they are now. Have you heard any African president passing or making comment on South African elections? Jamais. Nobody. Nobody has spoken about it. No opinion leader on the African continent has opened his or her mouth to talk about South Africa. Not the African Union. Nobody has advised them. Nobody has called for crisis meeting that, look, I'm Rwanda's president. I'm seeing the danger facing looming before ANC. And for that matter, Ramaphosa, Malema, Zuma, Neblisa, all of you, come and let's talk and go back on the drawing table and then form a union government among yourselves and then reunite the party. Nobody. Because of how they've done to their citizens and how they handle the issue of the xenophobic attacks against other African countries. Against other African countries. They claim they are not Africans. Now today, we'll see the smoothness level, whether they're Africans or not. They claim they are not Africans. Because when they're insulting you, they will tell you that you can't come from Africa. You can't come from Africa to South Africa. Listen to how even some of them they talk. Asking or telling a Zimbabwean who shares just a border that you can't come from Africa to come and misbehave in our country, South Africa. That is the mindset. So therefore, no African continent. You see, if we believe in dialogue, diplomatic dialogue, one African leader by now would have called the shot and called all the three members. Call all the three parties, Zuma, Malema, and ANC, and sit them down and speak to them. That the worst case scenario, whether you like it or not, you are still blacks. You are still black South African. Why are they having it? Look at the strong frontier and barrier between these three. Look at how they hate themselves. Look at it. How are they going to survive? How are they going to survive with this kind of a heat? So South Africa, my dear, is in crisis. South Africa is in problem. And this is going to be a very serious problem for them to manage through and then come out of it. Will be a very difficult scenario. Very difficult. So I must say that that is the difficult times facing our dear country, South Africa, in the wake of this year elections. And then we are looking patiently what would happen between today and the next 2 weeks, which Ramaphosa is to form his government. It will be very difficult exercise. But then it takes a political experience and a politician with dynamism, a politician with respect to eat the humble pie and reach out to them, negotiations and dialogue. But up to now, Ramaphosa had not even made any speech. And the speech that would even help to water down the anger, but rather how they are only negotiating behind doors, how they will be able to get the DA or etc. But the DA will not come on the table without asking for a high profile, the vice presidency, because they are thinking that since Mandela's time, they're supposed to have a vice president who is a white to balance the equation. There can't be any other better time than now. For me, between you and I, Doctor, I would wish that South Africa must have a white vice president so that they can learn and learn well. Because the country given to them for the last 30 years, there's nothing that they've done to the country, nothing. So they don't deserve to have vice president, a black, and a black president. They don't deserve to have it. The white must also have a say. In fact, for me, if you ask my view on how I see the whole thing, I'm looking at a scenario where there will be a white. Because in South Africa today, those who like Africans, and if I say Africans, I'm talking about those who like Cameroonians, those who like Nigerians, those who employ Ghanaians, those who employ other Africans, those who accept the other Africans, they are the whites, which we call them originators of the apartheid. They are the people giving jobs. They are the people taking care of the other Africans, not the South Africans as in the black South African. And it's very sad. And I'm not surprised that they are paying for such a huge price for what they've treated themselves and how they've treated the other African countries. Back to you.
Thank you for your time. Yes, I mean we have barely 4 minutes to go, even though we started the show a little bit later because of the technical issues. It's very disheartening. Like my sister Queen, Snovia. I mean, we are like it's a kind of energy, this kind of topics, but we would have to deal with it. We would have to confront this Africa that is a reality, regardless of how we want to paint it, regardless of how we want to justify. That's the reality on the ground. And at some point, I think we would have to face this dilemma. But I think it's time for truth. I really want to appreciate your knowledge and your articulations. I mean, honestly, I never saw it from this point of analysis. Of course, I also had been questioning the fact that why do the three parties originate from the foundation of ANC? I also had been questioning that. But the deeper analysis on which you have actually justified your case, like Professor James has, who was actually the mentor on this program tonight, say he has never heard or seen any such analysis from ever. So we actually thank you for your, what do I want to say, straight talk. This is straight talk. You did not manipulate. You just went straight and you hit it really hard. No matter how you break our hearts, honestly, Al, I just had wished that you would have given up something else. But from what I see, I still know that Africa is great and would be great. There's just one thing when that Professor James said, it's our spirituality, because our spirituality knows no politics of hate. And if we would conquer this politics of hate, let me first of all correct you. I did not say politically stable Africa. I said for Africa to achieve its economic, and you are laughing because exactly you know that you were just getting and hitting me from every point. I said in the beginning, and every one of us that is here could go back to the question I put before you just start. I mean, I know you don't like that because, of course, no African likes that because there's no political stability because it cannot even happen in the setup in which we find ourselves. Too much ignorance, as I can say. So, but actually, what I said, for us to gain economic stability and empower Africans, they need for political stability is so more or less sorted after. I think we're clear on
Yes.
that. That's exactly what you mentioned. But I like the fact that you took
Yes.
it
Go on.
from the point of
Yes.
analyzing why
Okay.
the political stability doesn't make sense and it doesn't even exist at all. Actually, you just reverse the question and answer it in the
That
right
is
way
true.
that I didn't even think about it. So honestly, I would give you, yeah, I'll give you credit for that. But we're wrapping up, Al, and we're going to stay on this conversation because, for like I said in the beginning, you owe us a lot of episodes. And not just that you owe Pan African, I mean, like a stakeholder of Pan African Daily TV, you do owe us this. We have learned today about South Africa, and I think it's a very noble cause that every African that is watching us and those that will watch this video would at least have a mind about what is going like. Don't throw stones on the glass, the house of glasses. And I think yes, magnificently analyzed. Yes, that's what everybody is saying. We can never disagree with that. And also because it's a long-term thing. So we want to touch on the next country. Which do you think it's actually very, very pertinent coming into elections and or the post-elections? Do you want us to talk about Senegal and then we compare it with Ghana? I'm not talking about today, of course, tomorrow
I,
or Thursday.
yes, I think yes. I think our next topic, we should be able to encourage our two young men, Basiru Fai and then also Usman Sonko, for their achievement of being respectively the young leaders to take the mantle of Senegal to another destination ever since the country's independence in the 60s. I'm saying that, yes, it has not been a practice, as African is always calling the youth, saying that they want the old people, the old political class had not been helpful, they are not doing this or doing that. But greatly, when we go back to the ballot, it is still the same youth who have been voting the old people into power. Senegal have shown the way. And I'm saying that it is high time for African continent, the elections ahead in various countries across board, they should be looking at giving their own youth, using their own youth power, using their own balloting power to support, if even not at the presidential level. We have the MPs. It is the member of parliament or the parliament and the Congress where laws could be enacted, laws could be made, and be able to change the whole political system. So therefore, if the youth should learn to do what the Senegalese did, because when Bassirou Faye and Ousmane Sonko, all of them were behind bars in the hands of Macky Sall. They put them behind bars. But the youth stood by them and voted them because, as I said earlier on, I gave a classical explanation and then interpretation as to how many, and all over the African continent, including Senegal, the youth forms more than 50 to 60% of the population. So if the youth form 50 to 60% of the population and you have a youth leader at the age of 40, why wouldn't you encourage them? Look at the small time that the two of them came into power. They are not even up to 2 months. Look at how and then the way they've started doing things in Senegal. We pray that the African political sickness and illnesses, the demons will not enter into them. But if they are to stick to the ideals, if they are to stick to their youthful exuberance, if they are to stick to their economic understanding and the way they see things visionary, and compare it to contemporary countries that have gone through stimulation of difficulties like ours, then Senegal is a country to watch. because I believe, and I will say that they've started well. Some of us will be visiting them in very short time. We'll be having a discussions. We'll be encouraging them. We'll be telling them that they have to force and go ahead. So let it shine and let it be on the continent. Africans all over, youth Africans should try now to be looking at how to bring the youth into the politics so that we can change. But if we still have the people in their 70s, 80s, late 60s, 90s, etc., then of course, for them, I would say that it has not been their start because they were manipulated by our colonial masters. In that, all those, the class that won independence from the colonial masters is the same political family that are still at the presidency, at the helm of affairs all over the African continent. Bring Cameroon, bring Ghana. Every presidential home or president of the country in any of those Africans, they are the old political class. They are not novice. They were the people whose fathers were there when the colonization took place, when they were given independence, and their children's children, their grandchildren are still the people leading the country. So they are emulating the standards, what their parents left and the legacy. And none of those legacies seek to have helped any African country, because the Pan-Africanism and the Pan-African legacies, none of them exist. They crash every of them down. Now we are having the pro-European or the pro-Western democracy, call it the Western political class. These are the people ruling and still handling the affairs of the Africa. So let us have the young ones like Bassirou Faye, Ousmane Sonko, more of them, like we see in Burkina Faso, Traoré, like we see in Assimi Goïta, Mali, like we see, and they, of course, an elderly person, but Chiani, what he's doing in Niger. These are the kind of things that we want to see on the continent of Africa, not the relaxed political class who are only taking their what is called the pressure drugs, who are already tired, who takes about 29 drugs tablets a day before they go to office, who takes about 30 drugs before they sleep. We don't need that. We need the youth to stimulate the affairs and push African continent to the destination that we are looking for. Not always to be the usual narratives and narrations that is just a talk show and nothing is being done. I think we should look at what is happening to South Africa and guide ourselves with these principles. That the next 2 weeks, South Africa, we should guide ourselves with the principle that time is coming to an end. For every political class or political system, there will be a change, regardless of how old the party is. The APC of Sierra Leone, the NPP of Ghana, the NDC of Ghana, and most of the parties across the continent who have taken the country and the citizenry for a ride, thinking that everything is just only a go-go, everything is just only unchangeable. The South Africans, the party divisions alone has made it possible that you cannot have that kind of a game relying on the same game plan and thinking that complacency would always be there. And if you're over complacent, that is punishing them. And I expect that they are not able to form even a union government in the next 2 weeks. So they will go back to the ballot and let's see what happens to that country. Even though, regrettably, it is the strongest African economy. When South Africa is affected, it's going to hit hard, especially the frontline states. But who cares? We want to see changes on the continent of Africa. If we have a dialogue and we have an organization called the African Union, one would have thought that looking at what the apartheid to the citizens and the South African, the black South Africans went through, they would have by now called a ceasefire among the feuding members of the ANC family. They would have sat down by now. You've seen it. No African ANC. There's nothing called that African Union, the SADC or whatever, cannot, SADC member countries can call for what? A ceasefire and see to fix, so that they go back and fix and bring the ANC and change the affairs. Nobody is talking. We are waiting until there's a breakdown before there will be summit
Yaoundé Summit, Accra Peduase Summit, Abuja Summit 1, and it will be a regular showcase of a team party. That is how Africa resolved it. We take advantage of any disadvantages just to have a party and even make budget and make money instead of solving the problems. Next time we'll deal with the Palestine, we'll deal with Russia, and then other topics that we haven't dealt with since I've been off your line. Now, get in touch. I know you are making me sign undertaking that on Thursday I'm coming. I'll try on Thursday for us to tag break with Senegal. It's a topic of my choice, so we'll deal with it, Doctor.
Thank you very much. Thank you so very much. And coming in on our best, we've just been saying it's the same thing like we keep saying. The most richest or powerful African on the continent, Dangote, it's been complaining of having to apply for 35 for visas to get access to 35 African countries. That is a mess, and I don't even know how to describe that.
Yes.
So we're gonna handle on that topic as well. But thank you so very much, Farouk. I know it's late out there. It's also late out here, and I want to really, really appreciate you despite the technical challenges on your end. As you can see, we are free. We're technical challenge free on the Pan-African Daily, and we're ready to roll on and catch up. You know, we catch up because nothing has been happening, like we said, even after 6 months, nothing. So it's easy that we're going to catch up on every other thing. So thank you so very much, brother. Greetings to all our people in Ghana, and we catch us on Thursday.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Yes.
Thank you. Good. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night, you people. Good night, my people here. Thank you so very much also for following up on this very, very hectic, in-depth conversation. I think it's really been a long time that we really touch on our wounds, that we scratch our wounds this deep. It's been long, and I want to actually thank you for being that backbone that we've always wanted. I mean, I saw your comment, you know, actually congratulating our brother, and even when Professor James actually, because Professor James was at work and heard him speak, and it's like, hey, put me, I want to listen to that firebrand. I never heard it before. So we are really thanking your support to keep Pan-African Daily in existence. I don't want to really say all this again. We would be giving you the means of how you can support Pan-African Daily to make us bring back the vibe on another level. Okay, like, you know, we're operating on the continent now, so please, our PayPal is not, I mean, it's cut off. Like you all know, even more than 2 years ago, we have been blocked from any financial, you know, access on the Pan-African Daily. But you know what? Now we're on the continent, and you can reach us at panafricandailytv@gmail.com, and we're going to give you access and give you the various means which you can financially support Pan-African Daily TV for us to evolve, because we're taking not just on digitally, we're also going on face-to-face studio and getting all these powerful guests here. Thank you so much, Kofi. I love you too. We love all ourselves, and we're going to see ourselves tomorrow. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but just watch out. I want us to touch on the firebrands that we've been missing for long. And it's not going to be the same faces anyway, but you know, most of the ice cream of Pan-African Daily who actually understand what we've put on the ground should be the same people that we're going to be having here. So I want to see you really come up strongly and support Pan-African Daily. We've actually been struggling. We've been struggling a lot. Yeah. So I thank you so very much. And those of you that are just joining us, please make sure that you like this conversation, you share, you subscribe. We haven't stopped subscription. We haven't stopped subscription, even though a lot of things, you know, they give you all the kind of like the disciplinary sanctions not to get access to subscribe on our YouTube. But please just do it. Go on subscribe button on, you know, and you just click subscribe. I get a lot of people now on the continent that are subscribing, and you see our numbers are growing up. We're not going to desist from being here. Even if we're going to get our channel, we're still going to outsource our communication to Facebook and to YouTube. That's clear. And we are also very, very active on TikTok. TikTok is when we just go, keep the audience warm, bring them back in touch, because it's not really like we host conversations for long like this. So I really want to thank you. And we're going to see yourself. We need Pan-African Daily t-shirt with Dr. Zib. Yes, Cheryl, I just thank you so much, my queen. All the queen executives on the board here. Nothing has changed. We've just only been evolving in another part. So that's going to come up as soon as possible. We had one last time, and I heard even Sister Felicia from Happy saying, hey, we need those t-shirts here. We have to sell out and make money for Pan-African Day. And of course, not just that, my biography is also coming. It's a book that is gonna really, engage all of us, and that's also a SARS where we're looking forward to print at least the first 1,000 copies, and we already get people signing out and to get a copy. We just want to get that out of the way, the first 1,000. These are all projects that we're putting in place to support Pan-African Daily, because no other person will support us. We don't even want the support of non-Pan-Africanists to support us. Of course, coffee, I drink my water all the time, and I mind my African business. Yes, you didn't just see me drinking water, because this conversation was so intense, and it really broke our heart to see the way, our brothers in South Africa, which apparently is, but anyways, we know Mother Africa is alive, and nothing would happen. In 2 weeks, I'm very certain, you know it very well, that these guys in South Africa are going to come up with a solution, a very powerful one, and they're going to build the strongest coalition. I think they've learned as we are learning, but I can guarantee you that the right answer would always come out. Africans do it anyway at the last minute. Thank you so very much, and we see ourselves tomorrow. As I say, watch out. If I don't have a guest, I definitely will get FAROUK AL-WAHAB back here on this podium. This guy, we need to get a lot out of this genius as much as we can. And he's just having, I know his program now, because his PA gave me his whole program for this month. And so if we can really squeeze out all the knowledge that we need from FAROUK, then this month, then we are good to go for the next sessions that we can then be doing the reproduction. So we see us tomorrow. Like I said, if we don't get if we don't have our lineup respected, so we're definitely going to get our brother FAROUK again. I hope. But like I said, I have an idea into his calendar, and I think that's already good enough. So good night, people. We love ourselves, and we see us, and keep just glowing. Just keep being you, the African that you are meant to be. Just shine on and shine. Because the more we shine, we're going to quench all these negative energies of who is going to rule us. Nobody, even during the times of colonialism, and it never happened, it won't happen again, particularly in this age and time, when the queens are also taking their responsibility on the global stage to define the Africa we want. So we are very confident, and we're so sure. South Africans, we know you're going to make the right decision. Thank you so very much. Good night.
You are watching the Pan-African Daily TV with Dr. Susan Tata. The Africa we want. Unity, consciousness, our culture, our spirituality, our history. One Africa for Africans worldwide. Motherland's calling its diaspora home. Join my voice. Join my team. Join my campaign. Campaign 21 hashtag 1 million subscribers on the Pan-African Daily TV YouTube. Be a volunteer. Apply now. Be the new Africa.
Go ahead. Keep on it.